project on is Starbucks. The current ratio is used to determine the company's liquidity. It had a current ratio of 2.20, and this measures the number of dollars in current assets for each dollar in current liabilities. This ratio is a good ratio to have. It shows that the company can use the current assets to cover all the current liabilities. Operating cash flow to total liabilities ratio is 0.75 or 75%. If you divide 1 by 75%, it tells you that it would take the company 1.33 years to pay off all the debts. And this ratio is used to determine how long it would take a company to repay its debt if it devoted all of its cash flow to debt repayment. Accounts receivable turnover. This ratio is intended to evaluate the ability of a company to efficiently issue credit to its customers and to collect funds from them in a timely manner. The accounts receivable turnover is 6.43, which means that Starbucks collected its receivables on average 6.43 times a year. The next is accounts payable turnover, and this is used to measure the speed that a company pays its suppliers back. The account payable turnover is 1.95, which means that the company pays its suppliers on average about every 6 months. Formula is the inventory turnover ratio, and for Starbucks it's 13.8, and this means that the inventory for Starbucks on hand is usually on hand 13 to sometimes 14 days before it is sold and replaced. The next is the gross profit percentage, and for Starbucks it's 23%, and this measures how much of every dollar of revenue is left over after paying cost of goods sold. On average, 25% or more is considered a good percentage, so Starbucks is right there at that percentage with the 23%. Working capital, and for Starbucks it's $681 million, which is good because it shows that the assets are more than the liabilities, and the working capital is a measure of a company's liquidity, operational efficiency, and its short-term financial health. Now we have the debt to equity ratio, and this is used to evaluate a company's financial leverage. And for Starbucks it's 19.54, which is considered high, but larger companies and fast-growing companies that are a little more stable can have a higher number when it comes to the debt to equity ratio, and the smaller companies for a number this high would not be very good at all for them. Next is the debt to assets ratio. This ratio, it indicates the portion of a company's assets that are being financed with debt rather than equity. And for Starbucks it's 0.95, and since the ratio is less than 1, it means that the company owns more assets than liabilities, and that it can meet its obligations by selling its assets if it needed to. And lastly, we have the assets turnover. This is a financial ratio that measures the efficiency of a company's use of its assets. in generating sales revenue or sales income to the company. And for Starbucks, it's 1.28. This means that for every dollar of assets the company has, it is generating 1.28 of sales.